rephrase that. There are different parts of an expression. We can have variable terms and we can have constant terms. What should it say a variable term is? So variable terms are terms with a variable, and constant terms are terms without a variable. So if we look at that example above, what are my variable terms? What are they, everyone? Okay, so I have 14x. That is a variable term. Okay? Then I see that 2x. Do you guys remember how when we did distributive property, I always had you keep the sign that was right in front of it? So you always need to keep the sign in front of it. So what sign's in front of that 2x? So it's got that minus sign in front of it, so I'm going to treat that as a negative, so I'm going to write negative 2x. That is my variable term. I need to keep that minus sign. I need to keep those plus signs. Plus means positive, minus signs mean negatives. So keep them with it. So then what's the next term I should write down? So I have 14x is a variable term, negative 2x is a variable term, and negative 5x is a variable term. Does that make sense, everyone? So then constant terms are terms without a variable. So what is the first constant term that we see? 9. So 9 is a constant term. What else is a constant term? And these are positives because we see plus signs. We don't have to write the positive sign. We don't have to write the plus sign because those are always there. You don't have to see them, but they're always there. What's the last one? 1. Any questions on the difference between variable terms and constant terms? Okay, now coefficients. What's it say a coefficient is? So when we look above at our variable terms, the coefficients are the numbers that are right next to the variable. So what's the first coefficient that you see? 14. That's our coefficient. What's the second variable term that you see? Now it's not just a 2, it is a negative 2. Keep that negative, that minus sign with it. And what's the last one? Yes, Bella. Yes, you may. Questions on that? Okay, so when we go down below, you'll see all of these expressions on numbers 1 through 10. I just need you to be able to identify these are variable terms, these are constant terms, and these are my coefficients of my variable terms. So when we go to number 1, what is the first variable term that you see? So I have 11a. What else do I have? 4a. Those are my variable terms. Then of those variable terms, what are my coefficients? 11 and 4. And what are my constant terms? They're none. So you either need to write none, N-A, or you can just draw a line through it, because there are none. Why would I not want to write 0? Because that's a number, right, guys? We can't put 0. It's a number. Don't do it. Just write none, draw a line. Just don't ever put 0. Got it? All right, number 2. What's the first variable term that we see?
3x.
And?
7x.
So we should have 3x and 7x as variable terms. What are my coefficients?
6 and
Coefficients. 3 and 7. And then what are my constants? 6 and negative 4. Don't forget that that 4 is a minus 4. You need to keep it a negative 4. All right, one more together. What are my variable terms of number 3, everyone? And? What are the coefficients? Negative 12 and 4. And what are my constant terms? Negative 3 and that positive 16. All right. finish up that page with the person sitting next to you. Go. Okay, let's start going over these problems, please, and thank you. 23. What are the variable terms? We're on number 4.
That 6K and K.
6K and K. Good. 17. What are the constants?
Negative -4
-4 and
and -2.
-2. Number 5. What are the coefficients?
6,
And?
2,
Nope.
sorry.
What number's in front of that K? You don't see it, but it's there.
4.
Nope. In
Oh,
front of the
oh,
K. 1. There you go. So there is a 1 there. You don't see it, but it's still there. You still have to know that that's a 1, so it's still a coefficient even though you don't see it. Does that make sense? Bennett. That's totally fine. Yep, if you put a 1 in front of that K, perfectly fine. 2. What are my variable terms? Excellent. 19. What are my coefficients?
5 and 2.
Just 5 and 2?
Yeah.
5 and 2 are what, though? So I gotta have those negative signs in front of it. Have to keep those negatives. They do matter. 14. What's my constant terms? 3 and 13. Excellent. Gavin, what are my variable terms in number 6? There's one more. Very good. Need all 3 of those. Thank you, bud. Can you mute yourself now? 25. I don't have a 25. 11. What are my coefficients?
-10, -6, -1.
Excellent. 12. What are my constants?
11.
Perfect. 10. Number 7. Variable terms. What are they?
-5 and
Perfect. 24. Lucille, that's you. No, wait, no, it's not. I have a 24, don't I? Jenna. Give me the coefficients. -5. So, Lucille, I think I skipped your number because you're 25. So, what are my constants, Lucille? Excellent. 19, -8, and 14. Perfect. 22. What are my variable terms?
13y and -3y.
Perfect. 13. What are my coefficients?
13 -2.
Perfect. Number 20. What are my variable terms? Constant terms.
18 and -5.
18 and -5. 21. What are my variable terms?
8a, -7b, -2b, and 3a.
Perfect. 15. What are my coefficients?
8, -7, -2, and 3.
Perfect. 7. What are my constants?
1.
Perfect. Number 1. What's my constant, or what's my variable terms?
17x and -4y and 2x.
11x, -4y, and 2x. Perfect. 16, what are my coefficients?
11, -4, and 2.
Excellent job. And number 18, what are my constants?
8.
Okay, do I have any questions on any of that? Now, why do you think it matters that we know the difference between all of those in terms of what we're going to be learning here, which is combining like terms? Why do you think that matters? Braden, what do you think? That's okay. What do you think, Aubrey? Okay. Morgan?
Maybe if it was like, what's the variable term plus the coefficients?
Okay. Getting there?
It would make it easier to break it apart.
Okay. So, think about it this way, guys. When we are combining like terms, we can only combine terms that are alike. We can't combine unlike terms. Are variable terms the same thing as constant terms?
No.
So, can we combine constants and variable terms together? No. That's why they're separate. You cannot combine a constant and a variable term together. Okay, you also, if we look at these bottom ones here, we have x's and y's, right? I have a's and b's, right? Are a's and b's the same? So can we combine them together? No, they're not the same. So once again, you can only combine terms that are the same term. They have to be alike. So if we go to the next page, purple, I want to combine like terms. You can simplify an algebraic expression by combining like terms. This means to combine common variable terms, meaning a's to a's, b's to b's, so forth and so on down the line, and constant terms together. So, in order to simplify an expression, here's how I teach it to you, and I teach it with color coordinating. So everyone pick a color. Don't care what color. I always have you box in the first term that you see. So the first term we see is 14x. I don't care if the first term is a variable term. I don't care if it's a constant term. You box in that first term, and then you box in all of the terms that are the same as 14x. So what is the next term that you see that's the same as 14x? Good. Remember, we had to keep those negatives with my problem on the before page, right, guys? So you got to keep it when combining like terms. What's the next same term after the minus 2x? So now what you do is you take the coefficients, the 14, the -2, and the -5, and you combine them together. So I've got 14 minus 2. What's 14 minus 2? 12. Then I have 12 minus 5. What's 12 minus 5?
7.
So 14x minus 2x minus 5x is the same thing as saying 7x. Because 14 minus 2 is 12, and 12 minus 5 is 7, and you're keeping the x. You have 7 x's. Does that make sense, guys? It's like if I start off with 14 x's, okay, I have 14 x's here. Come on, autofocus. Does not want to work very well. There we go. And I want to get rid of 2 of them, minus 2 x's. Then I got rid of 5 more x's. How many x's am I left with?
7.
So that's why it's 7x. Does that make sense, guys? It's doing that without actually doing that. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
Did you add 2 of them and then, like, did you add the 5 and the 2 and then subtract 14 minus 7?
As long as you're extremely careful. as long as you are extremely careful. All right, grab a new color, guys. Every single variable term or constant term needs to be done in different colors. So in your next color, you then box in the next term that you see. In this case, we see a +9, a +9. What term is the same as that +9? +8. Those are the same terms. They're both constants. There's no variable to them. They are constants. What's the next term that's the same? So those terms are the same. Now I can combine them together by just adding / subtracting, making sure I follow any and all necessary. So 9 + 8 is? 17 + 1 is? So I have 18. Now the question is there going to be a plus sign in between or a minus sign in between 7x and 18? Why a plus? As a positive, I need a plus sign between the 7x and the 18. That 18 was a negative, put a minus sign. So your simplified answer is 7x plus 18. That's all you are doing is simplifying it. So instead of having all of this, we're making it smaller. That is it. Great.
So it's only the last one that matters if it's a if it's add or subtract?
But technically too, if this 7 was a negative, you have to make sure you put a negative in front of that 7. Makes sense? But that's just written like you're used to writing it. Morgan.
Will you ever add the coefficient to that not part of
Kind of like how we subtracted them.
Yeah, but so would you ever subtract them?
It's all based on whatever the operation is that's in front of it. So you saw how they were -2, -5. That's why I subtracted, was because of the minus sign. If it said +2, then I would have added. Does that make sense? We'll keep going through some examples. Claire, did you have a question? Okay, we're only going to get through a few more because obviously class is almost over and then we're going to spend most of class working on this tomorrow. So let's go to number 11. Very simple one. You only need one color for this one, right? So if we pick a color, you are boxing in that 4x. What is the same term as 4x?
7x.
Don't forget you need a box in that plus sign with it because it's a positive 7x, so plus the 7. So it says 4x plus 7x. So we're adding the coefficients together because it's a plus sign. So 4 plus 7 is?
11.
And what do I need to put after that 11? So my answer is 11x because we're just adding the two coefficients together and make the x the same. Okay, same thing is true on number 12. What's the first we should box in? And what's the same thing as k? Well, yes, 1k. What else should I box in with it? -6k. So, 1 minus 6. Gotta remember your integer rules, right, guys? 1 minus 6 is? And what variable do I need to keep? So my answer is what? -5k. Okay, 13. What's the first one I should have boxed together? So I have 6c boxed in. What goes along with 6c?
11.
Don't forget you want to box in that plus 11c, that positive 11c with it. Need to have that plus sign. That way it says 6c plus 11c. What is 6c plus 11c?
7.
Then what's my next term? Do I have anything to combine with that plus 1? So I am just writing plus 1. So my answer is 17c plus 1. Okay, let's do 14 and then we're done. What's the first term I should box in? 7. always box in the first number. I don't care if it's a variable term or a constant. Always box in the first term that you see. Is there anything the same as 7? What is it? Positive 12 plus 12. What is 7 plus 12? So I have 19. And what's the next term I should have boxed in? Anything to combine to the negative 2y. So what do I write? So 19 minus 2y is your answer. How else could I have written that one to have it mean the same thing? Because all these other ones, the variable comes first on, right guys? Typically, the variable comes first. So how would I rewrite this so the variable came first, but it means the same thing? Aubrey? Say that louder, sweetie. You forgot the y, though. You're exactly right. Negative 2y plus 19 means the same thing as 19 minus 2y. You can write it in either way, and you will be correct. Is that understood? Yes, sir.
Why can't you do 19 minus 2 so you send 10y?
Because they are not the same terms. Because it has that y there. And if you were to plug in a number for order of operations, you would not get the same result from the end if you combined your terms. Does that make sense?